Hi, good morning, guys, and welcome to Unique Not Different with me, Shamla. And as you may know, Saturday we celebrated World Mental Health Day. And there's never, I think it shouldn't be a World Mental Health Day, but Mental Health Awareness Year, because especially in this time, 2020, pandemic and everything, it has exacerbated mental health, and the figures has increased due to very different varied amount of things. So with me, I have my guest today is Mr. Bertrand Moses. He is a psychotherapist by profession, but he's the founder of Balance 365. He has a varied um, experience internationally and locally. And we are here to discuss mental health, the stigma behind it, and so on. So, good morning, Mr. Moses. How are
Good
you?
morning. I'm fine, thank you, Shamla. Congrats on the great work that you've been doing. So I'm happy to be here to support you.
Thank you so much. So, let's get straight into it. In terms of the stigma behind mental health, there's still a stigma that when people talk about, they're feeling depressed or they're visiting a therapist, they think that people will think that they're crazy, right? Quote unquote.
Yes.
So that helps. That helps in terms of people keeping to themselves. What would you say can be done to get rid of that stigma per se, and what can people do to come out and get
Excellent.
help?
Yes, Shamla, that's an excellent question because it continues to pervade in our society. I think the first thing that people have to recognize is that mental health really is about, when we say a mental health disorder, we're looking at a condition that alters your thinking, your feelings, or your behavior and your mood. So that could be
Hmm.
as simple as diabetes. That could be as simple as just cancer. It's just
Yeah.
something going on in your body that's allowing that to happen. So we know when we think about it even more, how common is it? One in four persons, according to the World Health Organization, is challenged by a mental health disorder. And I remember reading about a powerful article by,
Mhm.
of course, the Association of Psychiatrists, and they identified that the age group of 25 to 50 is most at risk. So then we realized that this is actually more common than we think. So the two things I look at in terms of stigma, two common things. One, people believe that people with a mental health challenge, they're weak, they are incompetent. Not so at all. In fact, it just says that the body just needs some extra help. It could be through talk therapy, it could be through medication, and of course, you could get help because it's just another medical condition. And so it doesn't mean that you're weak, it just means that you need help. And going for help means that you're very strong. And then the second myth that I think people have that contributes toward the stigma is that people with mental health issues, as you said, are mad or crazy or violent. So people walking through Port of Spain, they see someone talking to themselves, or they see, the homeless person on the street, and they say, "Nah, man, that's a madman," and everyone is afraid. But Shamla, the truth is, if we do the research on it, most people with mental health challenges are actually more likely to become a victim than become a perpetrator, because they could be depressed. They are usually exposed to abuse. They could be, of course, exposed to fiduciary abuse, where people take their money, people abuse them physically. All of that happens. So I want to really punctuate that we have to put away those myths. And for me, Shamla, to be honest with you, I have spent time working with the homeless in Port of Spain, feeding them and
Okay.
stuff and carrying food. And I did it for about an 8 month period, and I've never had an experience, late in the night in Port of Spain, never had an experience where a homeless person attacked me. Even if they were having an episode or they were really having a challenge in expressing themselves, they never attacked me physically. And so I think a big thing is that we have to interact with people to understand them better.
Right. And in terms of, I think is being homeless is their way of crying out for help.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Right. And so in terms of, there's a lot of cases of domestic violence, and there are
Hmm.
different types of abuse that people may not be aware of, like physical, emotional, psychological, verbal, etc.
Yes.
Those victims tend to be afraid, right? To come
Hmm.
out because they're afraid the person put on a persona that they are over them and they are threatened. What advice can you give to of coming out and asking for help?
Excellent. Shamala, I would honestly advise that people remember an acronym. I would say it's fine. Everything is going to be fine. If we're
Yeah.
seeing it's cancer and diabetes and you need treatment with mental
Mm.
health, it's going to be fine. Just remember this acronym F. Find videos and stories online. There are so many powerful videos on YouTube about survivors of depression and anxiety or even suicide. And when you hear people share these stories, you yourself feel empowered. In psychotherapy, we call that video therapy. And there's also
Mm.
bibliotherapy, where you could read books and journal articles about how to overcome. The I would say, interact with other people who may have experienced a mental health challenge. And you hear their stories of strength and
Mm.
resilience, Shamla. And I want people to know you could talk to other people who went through it so you can learn more. The
Mm.
N, I would say, normalize it. According to World Health Organization, the two most common forms of disability, Shamla,
Mm.
number one is depression, and number
Yeah.
two is anxiety in the
Right.
world. So that means that it's greater than cancer, it's greater than diabetes, if it's so common. So it means that it's normal to be challenged by it. And finally, I would say E, educate yourself. Just read up on it. Educate your friends, even if you aren't challenged. Share, have conversations over the
Mm.
table. It's during COVID, so we can't interact with people. So do a Zoom session randomly. Talk to a friend about it and just talk
Yeah.
about the origins, about how mental health comes from stress, abuse, trauma. It's even hereditary, it's biological. And then we could also have conversations about types of providers, social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, who would be the best fit for you to get help.
And in terms of, let's say, go down to the root of this segment, right? Persons
Hmm.
with disability. Oftentimes you hear persons coming out and talking about overall health, one
Hmm.
being mental health. And then they say, go for walks, go talk to friends. But persons with disability don't have that luxury in terms of coming out, going for drives, or just coming out and going to the mall, expose
Hmm.
yourself to the environment and therapy. What advice would you give that community who is secluded? And we often talk about isolation, and I think it has exacerbated isolation for persons with disability, being home every day. So, what advice would you like to give?
Well, the first thing I would say is that it really is challenging because quite often persons with disabilities aren't taken as seriously as they should be by others
Mhm.
when they express that there's a challenge. Sometimes people won't even take the time to really listen and cater and pay attention to what they're saying. So I would say the first thing is that, like you, Shamla, you're a model of what people with disabilities could be. Be bold, be brave, speak out, write it down, email, do what you can. If you can't email, keep sharing that you feel uncomfortable. The second thing I would say is caregivers have to partner with us. Persons with disabilities, depending on how extreme it is, they can't do it
Mhm.
on their own. So
Mhm.
caregivers who are listening, they also need to look out for the signs of depression, anxiety, read up about it. The third thing I would say is activities that you enjoy. So Shamla, I believe that you love to talk and share and empower others. And some people may like to just draw a little, or they might like to sing or listen to music. And I say do some of those things that you believe in, eating well, sleeping, that type of thing. The next thing I would say is join support groups. Look
Mhm.
for them online and support networks and find support persons that you can rely on. Or you can even start an advocacy group. There are so many advocacy groups that have been started worldwide by people who are
Yeah.
challenged with a disability because it
Mhm.
works. And I would say an example of that would be the Down Syndrome Family Network, which was started
Yeah.
because of someone whose child had a disability. And then there's
Right.
also others like Mindwise. Mindwise promotes mental health because that was a lived experience with mental health itself. So I believe that you can look online, the Down Syndrome Family Network, there's the Disability Consortium, the Consortium of
Yeah.
Disabilities Organization on
Mhm.
Facebook. And
Mhm.
of course, if you Google them, look for them online. I know the Down Syndrome Family Network has weekly, monthly sessions on
Mhm.
mental health. And the consortium can link you to any challenge, solution for any challenge that you have through a provider. So there is hope, but it's just to be bold, and we ourselves need to do a better job as a society to put that in place.
Right. So I think I just for one sentence, I want you to just advise parents and
Mhm.
children in one sentence on what they can do in that balance in the home.
I would say the first thing is to develop a support plan. Sit
Right.
down with the child and just say, okay, these are your challenges. I'm hearing this is difficult for you. Have the
Mhm.
conversation and work out a plan, write it down. If you need to include a provider, someone for help, do research, and stick with that plan and work through it together.
Excellent. I want to say thank you so much for
No
coming,
problem.
imparting your knowledge, and
Mhm.
I want to wish you all the best in your endeavors towards advocating for mental health. And guys, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this week's segment of Unique Not Different. Until next week, guys, be good, do good. Bye.